So BPD, borderline personality disorder, if you're unfamiliar, is a highly stigmatized mental illness, a personality disorder. And I was this close to getting formally diagnosed with it, so I think I'm familiar. But I'm not a professional. This is just my hypothesis. This is just my understanding and perspective of it. But I've known people with BPD. I think I have it. I think I had it. I don't know if it's something you can really recover from. So I just wanted to share my understanding of it. BPD is a trauma-based personality disorder. That part is well known. You know, it's linked to childhood trauma. But I think it's specifically caused by the unmet need to be taken care of when we were young. And that can look different for everyone. It could be like your physical needs were met, but your emotional needs weren't met. It could be that you had one loving parent and one dangerous parent. But whatever the case was, our needs as children to be taken care of, to be kept safe, to feel loved, and to feel protected were not met. And I think that this is like the root cause of BPD. We get into a lot of trouble in relationships when we feel like we're not being taken care of emotionally. It feels like we're not loved. It feels like we're not seen, we're not understood. It feels like we're not being prioritized by that person, and that triggers that wound of I'm not being taken care of, therefore I am not loved, therefore I'm being abandoned. If you have it, you know it comes with a huge fear of abandonment and relationship issues, and it's so much coated in shame because, you know, we're not supposed to need anyone past childhood. Like, we're not supposed to desire to be taken care of. It's really frowned upon in our society today when you feel like you need somebody to take care of you emotionally. We have a little bit more tolerance for physically, like if somebody's disabled, but I see it like because that developmental need wasn't met, we actually have an emotional disability where we need more than the average person to be taken care of in an emotional way and in a way like where we feel understood and our needs are being met. But the unfortunate fact is it's very rare, if not completely impossible, to be taken care of fully in adulthood by another adult, especially in a romantic relationship. But even in friendships, like, it's just not very plausible that another person can meet all of our needs, because that's not how it works. Like, that was supposed to happen in childhood. That was supposed to happen when we were babies, toddlers, children. And we were supposed to be the number one priority. Our safety, our nurturing was supposed to be the number one priority over everything else. And if it wasn't, it leaves that permanent scar where we're just constantly looking for that in adult life. And we cannot find it because it probably doesn't exist. Obviously, if you've been in a relationship with a BPD person and they were abusive towards you, this is not to excuse their behavior, but maybe just to understand or shed some light on it, because the rage that comes with BPD, or like the unstable mood, is, I think, very much connected to that feeling of, you know, they're abandoning me emotionally by not taking care of me in the way that I need it. And so I get angry. You know, it's like a raging toddler, kind of, when they're not getting what they need, they're not getting what they want. And of course, we're not entitled to rage at people. And because that's crossing their boundaries in adult relationships, you know? So that's not okay. That's on us to filter it. But the feelings are there for sure. The feelings of disappointment, of betrayal, of abandonment, of rage, the feelings are there, and they're very much justified because of what we went through, because of our unmet need. And like, that's the thing about unmet needs, is like, they really don't go away no matter how old we get. If anything, they get more intense and more urgent the longer that need is not met. Because as human beings, being loved, being supported, being in connection with others, that's like a basic need for all of us, whether you have BPD or not. The problem with BPD is that need for us is times 10, times 20. And another issue is like we don't know how to take care of our own needs emotionally. Because if you weren't soothed as a child, as a baby, if you were not really nurtured, you never learn that. It doesn't exist in your arsenal of tools when you grow up. So without knowing how to do it, it's very hard to learn in adulthood. It's not impossible, but it's hard to learn how to self-soothe and take care of our own emotional needs. I'm saying it's not impossible because it's something that I've been actively trying to learn. And I'm 29 years old and I'm still trying to figure it out, So it's a long process. It's good to be patient, and that's like the number one solution, or like the number one source of healing for people with BPD is learning how to self-nurture. And that's no secret. Even therapists know this. That's what they're trying to get you to do, and like to try to recognize that, it's not the job of your romantic partner to meet all of your needs. But they come across like a little bit cold because they don't get how desperate and deep like the desire goes, and how innocent it is actually. It comes from a very innocent place of just genuinely needing somebody to step up and to be like, you're okay, you're safe, I'm gonna take care of your needs, you're loved, I'm never gonna leave you. Like, it comes from such an innocent place, and that's why I have so much compassion for it. Of course, it can manifest in unpleasant behaviors from the borderline, but that's kind of like our job as, if you have BPD, that's kind of your job to like filter out your own unsavory reactions to people. It's okay to feel them, but sometimes it's not okay to express them because it's gonna cross a boundary. But it's not our fault for feeling that way. Anyway, I guess I'll tell the story of how I almost ended up in a psych ward and being diagnosed with BPD. I was, I think, 24. I was not doing well. I was in a relationship with who I'm currently in a relationship with, and I was having a tough time. Like, it was bad. I was dealing with a lot of trauma, like childhood trauma that was being triggered. I was aware of this, but I was not able to regulate my emotions, and it felt like I was having like panic attack after panic attack. Like, I just could not calm myself down. I couldn't sleep or relax or feel safe. And in the midst of that like chaos, all I wanted to do was die. And I called so many like self-deletion hotlines to try to talk to somebody, but they were completely useless. Yeah. And they were like, do you want us to call an ambulance? And at first I didn't, because I didn't want to like cause a commotion, but I just like could not calm down. And this was going on for like maybe 2 days straight. I was trying to soothe myself. I was doing everything I could. I took myself to the mall. Like, I tried to go see a movie or something. I couldn't even get myself to go into the movie because I was like not able to breathe. And so eventually I was like, okay, just send an ambulance. And I, had the people come in, get me. My mom was freaking out, like, but I just couldn't verbalize in that moment, like, why I needed somebody to just come get me, like somebody qualified. And I couldn't talk to my family or anything like that because they did not have the tools to help me in that moment, And I was aware of that. So I went with them. They, took me on the ambulance. They took my blood pressure and stuff. And they were like, well, you're physically fine, but we're going to take you, to the psychiatric unit. And when we came to the hospital, they took me in this room. I didn't have my phone on me. I didn't have any distractions. And they just said, wait, somebody will be with you. I didn't know how long I was going to wait. I think I probably waited for an hour before somebody even came to check on me. And in that room, it was like a little hospital room with a bed. There was a clock. I was kind of cold, that's all I remember. And like, I just felt kind of contained. I felt a little bit better because I felt like at least I'm in the hands of professionals. At least they're gonna take care of me. Which is a delusion, unfortunately, because they do not take care of you. Anyway, eventually somebody came. They talked to me to do an assessment to basically figure out, am I an immediate danger to myself? That's all they're doing there. Like, they're not exactly qualified to help you. I don't know why. So yeah, they talked to me. I mean, talking to somebody helps, you know, even if they're useless. At least you're like sharing your distress with another human being. And there's a hope that they might be able to help even if they're useless. And then she left. And I probably stayed in that room for another 2 hours. Eventually somebody came back and said, look, you know, if you really want, we can take you to the psych ward, but you're not going to be comfortable there. They were very honest. I actually appreciate that. And they were like, you know, we don't think you're an immediate risk to yourself or others, so if you want to go home, you can go home. And I was like, but, you know, why can't I go to the psych ward? Like, I needed help, you know, I just needed somebody to help me. And they were like, well, you know, the psych ward, you're not going to be very comfortable there. It's going to be, like, loud and distressing, even more distressing, you know. And I think they were aware that they're maybe understaffed and that there's not really going to be immediate help. It's more like prison than a place that can help you, unfortunately. And they said, you know, we'll refer you to a psychiatrist and, you know, you'll have an appointment in a few days over Zoom. So I said, okay. And I went home. And unfortunately, like, the reaction I was met with was that people were mad at me, which is the last thing you need when you're already on the verge of, like, wanting to unalive yourself. They were mad that I took myself to the hospital. They probably thought, like, I was blowing it out of proportion or something like that, but I really wasn't. Genuinely, what I was feeling, what I was going through felt like the worst thing I'd ever gone through. Anyway, I don't know how I made it through, like, the next few days because I was not okay. But since nobody was helping, I just had to, like, grit my teeth and get through it. And those maybe close to 4 hours that I spent in that room with absolutely no stimuli and, like, just in the room with my thoughts, like, I don't know, it did help in some way, in some weird twisted way. It did make me feel like maybe I'm okay, like, I'm gonna be okay. I don't know how, I don't know why, but, like, sometimes a change in your immediate surroundings is shocking enough to the system to reset it. That's all, like, I can hypothesize about that, why that helped. So in a few days I had that video call, and that's where the psychiatrist did a bit of an assessment, and she said, well, you know, I don't think you're an immediate risk, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, can you diagnose me with something? Like, what would you diagnose me with? And she said, you know, I would have to see you more, but I could see you might have borderline personality disorder. You might. She didn't, like, give me a diagnosis, but she gave me, I don't know. This was before I knew about my autism, by the way. And turns out autism and BPD have so much in common. Like, so much. And that's interesting because some of the similarities is that with autism, you're also unable to regulate your own emotions. It's very difficult. You're highly, highly sensitive to everything. So, if you're born with autism and nobody was aware of it, you were not diagnosed, it's very likely that you might have other personality disorders or mental health issues in the future, because coming in with that sort of sensitivity to the world around you and like being exposed to traumatic situations is a recipe for disaster. And that like not being taken care of aspect is so highly traumatizing that of course you're gonna have like a personality disorder. It's just like, well, of course, it makes sense. But then what help are you offering? And the psychiatrist was like, well, you would have to sign up for therapy, and you have to wait to get a therapist, and then maybe this sort of therapy will help you. And she like suggested a type of therapy. It wasn't cognitive behavioral therapy. I think it was something else. It was dialectic behavioral therapy, I believe, DBT. I looked into that a bit after that call because I was curious what it was, and I don't know that it would have helped me. I don't know, because I never got a therapist. But I know ever since then I feel so much better now. So, if you're going through a crisis, just know that it can get better. Time helps. Growing older helps. And learning about your own needs and how to take care of them helps. But of course, like, the first step is just calming down your body. Because usually if you're in a crisis, your nervous system is highly overstimulated. Usually you feel very unsafe and very ungrounded. I was very dissociated, so it helps to take care of your physical body and your emotional body. But I'm not a professional, so I'm just, sharing what I went through and what helps me. And of course, my best friend, the mushrooms, helped me. I call them my spirit guides because they really did guide me through a lot of this trauma that I couldn't have, figured it out on my own. They have a way of unblocking suppressed emotions and letting it come to the surface and come out, and I don't know, they've just helped me a lot. I'll just never shut up about them because they really have. They've helped me more than therapists and psychiatric drugs, that's for sure. The ones I was taking at the time were called Golden Teacher mushrooms, if anyone's interested, and I found them online. Anyway, I think that's pretty long, so I'm going to end it there. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful in some way, and let me know if you relate, if you have BPD, or if you know someone who suffers from it. Send them this video. Okay, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.